and welcome to the Paletteful Packs YouTube channel. My name is Alice and I have the January 2025 Paletteful Premiere Pack here in front of me. So let's go ahead, open it up and see what's inside. Ooh, watercolors! Oh my gosh. Okay, so I see a lot of supplies in here that I am personally a big fan of using, so I'm gonna go to literally the thing that got me so excited first. So these are the Stabilo Woody 3-in-1 pencils, and they're amazing. These are these super chunky water-soluble pencils that you can use as crayons or watercolor pencils. They layer so well, and they're super pigmented, and they come in all kinds of beautiful colors. This is a beautiful pastel teal. I see in here is this Daler Rowney Aquafine travel set. So Aquafine watercolors are super high quality pigments that are finely milled. They are beautiful transparent colors. I love Daler Rowney as a brand, and this is a super cute little travel set, as you can see. Let's open it up. So cute. So it comes with all of the different colors and then a little brush. So this is perfect if you are a painter on the go. Next thing I see in here is a Lyra Aqua Brush Duo. So one side is going to be this brush tip, and then the other side is more of a bullet nib. So this is a dual tip water-based ink pen. So you can add water to it and kind of create watercolor-like effects, and we got the color Deep Sepia. Then we have a Robert Simmons paintbrush. This is from the Sapphire line in a size 8. This is a round, and because it is the Sapphire line, it is going to be a blend of Kolinsky Sable hair and synthetic. The next thing I see in here is a pencil. This is a Tombow pencil. It is a 3B pencil, so we can sketch out our drawing at the beginning. I'm also seeing another Lyra Aqua brush. This one is going to be in a lemon yellow. We have a Lyra kneadable eraser. Kneadable erasers are going to be great for lightening our sketch before we go in with our watercolors. A super cute splashy sticker. And then finally we have the Canson paper. This is the Montval watercolor paper. It's going to be 140 pounds, 9 by 12 inches. You're going to get 12 cold press sheets. So this is going to be perfect for taking all of our supplies this month. Okay, so this is a really cute little box. This is everything we're going to get this month. We're going to get this Canson Montval watercolor paper like we just went over, the whole Daler Rowney Aquafine set, the Stabilo Woody 3-in-1 pencil, which y'all are gonna fall in love with. These crayons are so fun. 2 of these Lyra Aqua brushes, and then a nice sketching pencil by Tombow, as well as a Lyra kneadable eraser. So I haven't worked with watercolors in a while, so I'm excited to sit down and play with them. Let's go ahead and start making some art. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out with some swatches. I always like to start out with swatches. I just think that it's a great way to get to know the supplies and see how they're going to work. I do already know some of these supplies pretty well, which is helpful for me, but I really wanted to show y'all how well they can blend out. And you can see, especially the markers, look at that, like it's crazy. So these are super, super gorgeous and pigmented markers. As you can see, they blend out like a dream. You don't have any brush strokes left. They're magic. And I wanted to start with a thumbnail for this because I wanted to do more of an illustration. And so I thought it would be helpful if I could kind of sketch it out beforehand and figure out where I was going to use which supplies so that I knew that I could use all of the different supplies and how the different colors were going to work together. As you can see, we have yellow and then obviously kind of a blue-green. So I wanted to try to combine those 2 colors and do kind of a blue and yellow color scheme. I had the idea of drawing this girl kind of in front of almost a window, like a patchwork window that almost looks like a embroidery, not like an embroidery, a quilt. And she's going to be holding some flowers, and it's kind of very simple, just like a silhouette, not like an actual silhouette, but just a very simple pared down sketch. And like even when I do the full one, I wanted to keep it really simple, very fluid lines, and I really wanted to let the paints blend and keep it really kind of like messy and play with the techniques and the way that watercolor itself works. So this is me going into my little sketch and just figuring out where the colors are going to go and where I'm going to use each supply. So starting with the yellow marker and the green crayon, and then dabbing in a little bit of blue on the top to create some texture and diversity in there. And then I'm going to kind of tap it all back up with a paper towel so that it gets lighter and more patchy and creates this kind of cool effect. And then I'm I'm going to go in and paint the roses blue because I thought like a nice tealy blue with some bright blue pops would look nice down at the bottom, and kind of bring a lot of that blue. I'm working on a collection that has a lot of blue in it right now. It's like entirely themed around blue, so I decided, hey, let's try to see if I can make this part of that collection. So I was like, let's go with the blue. Also gave her this really pretty deep teal hair, and she's holding blue flowers, but for more of that yellow, I went with a yellow ochre dress. And for using that really dark brown, I went ahead and went around the window, so it creates this really nice dark contrast with the rest of the colors. And I was pretty happy with that overall color scheme, so I went ahead and started sketching. I normally don't include my sketching process in videos because honestly, my head gets in the way a lot, so I'm sorry in advance about that. And I tend to get really, really close to the paper. But because we were sent a pencil, I did include the sketching process this time. So I used a plate to get a perfect circle and then a ruler to go down from there to create the archway first. And then I started drawing in the roses. Roses are kind of frustrating to draw a lot of times, but I usually just kind of start with the center, the kind of like curled around center area, and then I build out these kind of pointed petals from there, and it works out okay. I mean, you can tell they're roses. I wouldn't say they're the best roses in the world. They look nicer when they're drawn, but after I started painting, I kind of lost my guidelines and things got a little wonky, but you can tell they're roses, so it doesn't really matter. It's fine. The whole point of this painting was to really try to be loose and free. I haven't worked with watercolor in a really long time, so I decided to go into it wanting to just let the watercolor do what it was going to do and let it flow and bleed and create messes and work with them. So that was kind of the idea that I had going into this. So I drew this big floral arrangement in the front. Then I sectioned out my window, and then I drew in my person, my little figure here. Again, I tried to keep it really simple. I was going for like kind of realistic proportions, but not like super realistic, if that makes sense. Just kind of this very loose, I don't know how to describe the style I'm going for. I wanted to make it, part of me really wanted to like stretch out the limbs and make it really abstract and like, I don't know, like wonky, but I think I'm just a little scared to do that with the human figure yet. Like that caricaturism is hard for me. So I went with just more of a really simple aesthetic. Kind of trying to keep everything in basic shapes, I guess is the best way to describe it. I wanted to section out the hair. I want this painting to have a lot of pattern and texture to it. So I'm kind of trying to establish where I'm going to be putting in patterns, and the hair is a good place that I can put in some nice kind of directional lines. Then I'm going to lighten the whole thing up with the pencil once I'm done. Or with the eraser rather, lighten it all up with the eraser, spray it with some water, and I painted the whole background lemon yellow because I love to start with just like a background color because I think it kind of tints everything underneath it and you get this kind of cohesive feel. And I wasn't afraid of going super yellow with this because I knew that it was going to be a heavily featured color in the piece anyway. So I went with a pretty heavy yellow background, and then I started with the very back, the window quilt, and got all of that in and went in with the water. I did the green first and then went on to the yellow. I didn't worry too much about them drying in between this. I am okay with things bleeding, so I just kind of do the green, drop in some blue on top of it so that it creates these cool bleeds, and then rinse my brush and go in and add water to the yellow. And I'm not worrying about letting those lines dry. As you can see, we're getting some beautiful bleeds kind of as the colors touch, and then dabbing everything up with a paper towel. Once I was done with that and had created some textures I found interesting, at least for the base layer, I decided to go into the leaves. I don't really know why, I just decided to. So I painted the leaves a medium green, and then I dropped in a yellow ochre and a darker green, again trying to create a lot of base texture that I can then add a patterning over the top of. So for in this case, in this instance, like the patterning of the veins of the leaves. And then I spill all over the painting and don't notice for a while, but it's fine, whatever. But I'm gonna paint all of the roses this light teal color as a base, and then throw in some darker teal and blue on top of it. This is going to create a soft suggestion of a shadow that we can work with later. And then while that's drying down, before I put in the sharper shadows, I move on to the hair, which I paint this darker teal. Wasn't quite dark enough, so I added in some black and made it even darker. Also added in a little brown just to keep it a little bit more of a muted tone. And then I dropped in some water and a little bit of white to kind of create these like star-like effects. And again, texture, we're loving the texture. Once I had that, while that was drying, because a lot of watercolor is really about jumping back and forth between different areas of the painting while things are drying, I went back down to the roses, which were mostly dry. They weren't 100% dry, which made it a great place for me to start putting in those shadows over the top because they just slightly blend out, but they're mostly going to stay where you put them. So I'm putting those shadows in and then going in and adding in over where the highlights would be. I'm actually adding in that crayon for more of an opaque look. And to bring in some of that like kind of mint color down to those flowers. I just think it's a cool effect, and I like the mixed media differences in texture that you can see there. So adding in a little bit of kind of wet on wet to the flowers in the middle, and then going down and adding in that crayon to the left side of the roses like we were just talking about. And then it was time for me to add the patterning onto the leaves, which I decided to do in this dark red color, which I loved. This was the time that I was finally like, oh, I actually kind of like where this piece is going, because before this I wasn't liking it. But once I added in that red, I was really inspired. So I added in some bright blue to some of the flowers and then some yellow to some other flowers to create some tonal and color variation, so they're not all like the exact same color of blue. And then I started in with the patterns, which I did in those kind of like a darker, just a slightly darker version of the color, the window color. And I just did some stripes, some X's. I'm gonna do some little hearts over on this one. The trick to doing this is water control. You don't want too much water or else it will get really like blobby and it won't stay where you put it. You'd want just the right amount of water. Doing some horizontal stripes here and then adding in some little circles down at the bottom, a couple little areas that you can barely see, but I still wanted texture there. And then this is supposed to be a flower pattern. I don't know how successful it was, but whatever. Once it's all together, I feel like everything kind of blends together and it works. So it's fine. And then I painted her dress yellow ochre because it was like the last thing to really be painted, one of the last things to really be painted. Big glaring white spot in the page, so time to fix it. And while that was drying, I started putting in these lovely lines on her hair, which I really like how these came out. The directionality that it gives and then the texture underneath them, I think is really pretty. As things are drying, I'm continuing to work on the bouquet that she's holding, but I'm really not putting a lot of effort into it, to be honest. Throwing in a quick skin tone. I'm not putting really any shading into this. It's all texture and pattern. Felt like doing any shading would really take away from that, so I just added some blush tones. And then I used the pen, the fine nib of the dark pen, to add in some kind of like sticks sticking out. And then I used green to add in this pattern to her dress. Again, more pattern, all the pattern. I wanted this to just be like overwhelmingly patterny. And also some yellow flowers with the pen. And then finally putting in that super, super dark, dark brown for that contrast, which kind of brings everything together, which was wild. I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna, oh, look, it's working, basically. And adding water to that to blend it out. Last thing I did after this was go over with the pencil to redefine some lines and just kind of make her stand out a little bit more and take off the tape, and I was done. So this is my final illustration with this month's supplies. I hope that you all liked it. I can't wait to see what everyone else did this month. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to get a box of your own, then click the link in the description box below. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.